and welcome to Pocket Rob. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking my top 15 double albums. This will include one or two albums that were actually perhaps released as a triple, but we're talking a minimum of 2 vinyl discs. Now, it needs to be 2 vinyl discs as it was originally released, and in 1 or 2 very rare exceptions, there will be a album from the CD age that, had it been released in the vinyl era, would definitely have been a double vinyl. Before I go in, I'll just remind you to hit the thumbs up to like the video, click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and of course the bell to receive any notifications of future content. So let's go at number 15 with Use Your Illusion 2 by Guns N' Roses, released in 1991. So this is a great rock album. It's got terrific tracks on it like You Could Be Mine and Civil War, which I think is probably the standout track on the entire album. Some of the album deeper cuts, things like Get in the Ring, which quite possibly might be one of the angriest songs ever committed to tape. At number 14, I have placed an album released very much in the CD age. If you do buy it on vinyl, then you actually, I think, don't buy a double album, you buy a triple 10-inch disc album. But that's more to reflect the fact that there are 3 acts to this record. It's 21st Century Breakdown from Green Day. This to me constitutes a genuine double. It's well over a 70-minute length, and were this to have been released properly as in the vinyl area, it would have been a double vinyl record. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I think there's some absolutely terrific tracks on here. I don't like it as much as the American Idiot album, but for me, that's a 1.5 vinyl album in terms of its length, although my copy of it is double vinyl. Green Day's 21st Century Breakdown at number 14. At number 13, I have placed an album that I believe was rock's first ever double album. But if you buy it on CD, it is a single CD, which just goes to demonstrate that whole quandary of CD length versus album length. And it is Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. This is an example of an artist having so much to say that the only way they could possibly do it is by putting out 2 vinyl discs of music. So what do you do if you've got more than a single vinyl disc will take and you want to release all that you've recorded? Well, if you're Led Zeppelin, you go back into your vaults and pull out tracks that had not made it onto previous albums. And that's where we get Physical Graffiti, which I've placed at number 12. Kashmir alone would be worth the entry fee for this record, but Houses of the Holy, an offcut from the Houses of the Holy album, is probably my favourite track. Trampled Underfoot's terrific. 10 Years Gone, I have been listening to quite a lot recently. It's an ideal song for running to. Physical Graffiti, my number 12. And number 11 is an album I featured on a previous video, which was a reimagined. Whilst I think it's a really good double, I think there's a perfect single knocking around in it, and that's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding kicks it all off and is absolutely peerless song. I think it's fantastic. One of the best things he's ever recorded. Following up with stuff like Candle in the Wind, the title track, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Roy Rogers, Social Disease. Again, this is an example of an artist that had so much to say, particularly in 1973, that their second album from that year was a double. And Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is pretty much viewed as his towering achievement across his entire career, which is no mean feat. Number 11, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Into my top 10, and at number 10 is an example of an album that is a story. It's a concept album in every sense of the word. It's The Wall by Pink Floyd. So someone to release a double album, they either have to have so much material that they couldn't keep it in, or it needs to be a cohesive whole. And this is what The Wall is. Now, I don't love every track on it, but I do like the whole concept and how it runs through the entire record. It, of course, contains Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Comfortably Numb, Run Like Hell. The Trial, right towards the end of the record, is an astonishing track. That is 9 is the most recent release on my list. This is a triple vinyl, but it's a double CD as it went over the 80-minute mark. This is Senjutsu from Iron Maiden, an album that I am really only now starting to discover the depth in. This is a towering achievement for a band going well over 40 years. Senjutsu is a fine record. The first side of vinyl in particular is terrific, with the title track, Stratego, Writing on the Wall, and it finishes off the album with the side 6 closer, in this case, which is Hell on Earth. And this is a great record from Iron Maiden, and my number 9 double album. So what do you do if you've recorded too much material for a double album, but not enough to turn it into a triple? Well, if you're Stevie Wonder, you release Songs in the Key of Life with a Something's Extra 45 disc. So this is the culmination of Stevie's Purple Patch, running from Inner Visions all the way through to Songs in the Key of Life in the 70s. To be releasing tracks like Sir Duke, As, Another Star, Isn't She Lovely, Pastime Paradise is a terrific record and often cited as one of the greatest albums of all time. Songs in the Key of Life, my number 8. At number 7, I've placed an album from 2015 by an artist that has already appeared on this list. This is their longest album. It is again a triple vinyl. And if you've watched my video ranking all of the albums of this artist, you'll know this was coming. It is Book of Souls by Iron Maiden. This is my 4th greatest Iron Maiden album of all time, and I think it is an absolutely incredible achievement. It is a double CD in its CD format, so again, it is definitely worthy of inclusion on this list. Empire of the Clouds alone takes up side 6 of the record and is an 18-minute mega epic. But this kicks off with If Eternity Should Fail, which is one of my favourite Iron Maiden tracks. Speed of Light was a great single. Red and the Black is one of Steve Harris's best epics, and it's a really, really fine album. And number 6 is an album that I've again done a reimagined about, but this time it is the White Album by the Beatles. I do not think this is a perfect album, but I do think it contains many, many perfect songs. But it's the likes of the tracks like Blackbird, Julia, Piggies, Savoy Truffle, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Back in the USSR, Bungalow Bill, Raccoon, etc. that actually keep this as my number 6 double album. Because, quite frankly, Revolution 9 sucks, and I can't stand it. But it's an important double album in the history of rock. Number 6, the White Album. At number 5, I have placed Evermore by Taylor Swift. Now, I have started to become a bit of a Swiftie. I really think that this woman is an incredible musical songwriting talent, and Evermore, her second release of 2020, is further proof of that. Nobody No Crime, I think, is an amazingly good song, but I enjoy Willow and Champagne Problems and Marjorie and Dorothea. This is a really, really fine album. And number 4, I've placed the only album in this list that I don't currently own, and it is Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1. I think this is comfortably the better album of the two, and I know that that puts me at odds with most people who put Use Your Illusion 2 as the better, and indeed, chart-wise, Use Your Illusion 2 made number 1, whilst Use Your Illusion 1 made number 2. But for me, it contains the better cover version, which is Live and Let Die. It has November Rain, which I think is magnificent. The Garden. There's so many great songs on Use Your Illusion 1 that I think it's my number 4 double album. At number 3, I have placed Taylor Swift's Folklore, the first album from 2020 she released. Now in my 2020 ranking, I originally had her 2 albums the other way around. I had Evermore as my best album of the year and Folklore at number 3. That position has shifted. I think Folklore is actually the marginally better album for tracks like Betty and Epiphany and The Last Great American Dynasty, Cardigan. This is a terrific double album. At number 2, I have placed Punk's towering achievement, London Calling from The Clash. This is a stunning record of A band that just skipped styles effortlessly with terrific songwriting, including the title track and the hidden track at the end, Train in Vain, which of course is now listed as always being part of the album. But on the way are Right Profile and Wrong and Boyo and Lost in the Supermarket. And there's so much on this album that I think is absolutely terrific. London Calling, my number 2 double album of all time. And to conclude this list with number 1 is actually a triple album. That's it. George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. This is a seminal album from the 1970s. This is the point at which people went, my word, George Harrison is a great songwriter. He was obviously eclipsed during his time in the Beatles, but all of these songs he'd been building up over 5 years or so were spilled out onto the sprawling All Things Must Pass, including this came joint top in my all-time greatest albums of the 1970s, along with Band on the Run. And I do think it's an amazingly good album. Like I said, it's really a double because the Apple Jam, no one listens to it. But All Things Must Pass, my greatest double album of all time. So that concludes my list of double albums that I think are the best. Let me know in the comments below what your ranking might be. Before I go, I just remind you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And I'll be back in a week with the next part of my son and I's top 100 songs of all time. But until then, thanks for watching.